real life cases, and it shows you how differently they're handled.
Right.
I have certainly come to believe that they don't really care if people are committing suicide, they just want to control how you die.
Right.
I did a talk in Butte, Montana in January. Now, Montana has legal aid in dying through a court order. Yet every legislative session, a conservative politician will introduce a bill to criminalize physicians who actually legally write the aid in dying prescription. And what these bills want to do is put them in jail for 10 years and fine them $50,000. Well, they've never succeeded, but I was there speaking in Montana because it was, again, brought up in the legislature. Butte, Montana is a mining town that's past its prime, but very nice people live there, and there's some ranchers there. It's about 30,000 people, and I spoke to a group, and afterwards a woman stood up and she said that she works with people with mental health problems in that community. Many of them are returning veterans. A lot of them are depressed, some of them are suicidal. And they come for help and they want to have help. And they don't have the funding to treat these people.
Wow.
So who are the people in legislatures who are constantly slashing the budgets and removing mental health funding or funding for people with disabilities? They're the same people who oppose aid in dying. So if they really cared about people, the sanctity of life, preventing suicide, why don't you put your money where your mouth is? It doesn't happen. So I've become rather cynical, you know, when these people claim that they have such a respect for life, when in reality they don't. All their respect is saved for when their case comes up and they want to throw the full force of the law behind it and put that person in jail who is somehow implicated.
Mentally competent, what kind of requirement is that? Somebody who's in pain, how do you judge whether they're mentally competent?
Well, being in pain is not something that would exclude you. You have to be decisionally capable. So you can't have someone with dementia.
If you're in pain, you're probably getting narcotic drugs. To what extent does that alter your ability to be mentally competent? When I had surgery, I remember how out of control of my own life I felt, because I was in this fog and I had a decision that I needed to make, and doctors came in and expected me to make a decision. I knew enough to say, I'm not competent to make that decision, wait until my daughter gets here.
Can I address this? Sandy, when you have cancer and you're taking a lot of painkillers, you get used to taking that many drugs. You build up a tolerance to the painkillers, and they don't affect you the same way if you take them every day all the time.
So, I mean, when you're talking about decisional capacity, the person has to be alert.
Who decides that?
The physicians. Physicians.
Not
do.
the court?
No, physicians. So you can have clinical depression and still have decisional capacity, because just because you're depressed doesn't mean you can't make rational decisions. Can you make rational decisions? Can you understand what the condition is, what your options are? Are you affected in any way by a brain disorder, such as dementia or...
So these are medical criteria then?
Absolutely.
They're not legal criteria. That's important.
They're medical criteria, and if there is any question about whether there's a decisional capacity, like say because of possible depression and someone wanting to accelerate their dying, then a psychiatric evaluation is done.
Okay.
So that's another safeguard in the law.
That's all right.
Yeah. So did that answer your question?
It does. I'm very concerned, though, about something that I've heard tonight here for the first time. I had naively believed that my advance directive would protect me and my right to at least stop treatment that I don't want. I understand that it's not going to give me the right to choose when to end my life unless the law changes. But I'm now going away wondering if even the advance directive is valid, and whether there's any. And I have nothing more than the standard form from Pennsylvania that anybody can download from the internet, to use. And I'm wondering if there's something more that's needed. Do I need to go see a good lawyer to get words put in there that are more explicit, or what
This is the number. I will tell you, this is the #1 concern I hear every time I give my presentation. people are shocked and horrified to hear that these legal documents that they took the time to discuss and they took the time to see a lawyer and prepare, that they're not going to be binding. And they're not binding. They're not. Now, what's more legally binding is what's called a post physician order for
Do
licensing.
those work in Pennsylvania? I understand.
Pennsylvania has them, but there are, to my knowledge, there are only 2 states in the country where they are absolutely inviolable, and that is Oregon and West Virginia. So they still can be overridden.
What is that called?
POLST, P-O-L-S-T, Physician Order for Life-Sustained Treatment. And Pennsylvania just initiated one. So the best thing you can do to protect yourself is still have the documents and have them be as specific as possible. Now the standard advance directive says, well, you know, I don't want to have a feeding tube or blood transfusion if there's no hope at all for me to get better and I'm in a coma and all that. Well, that may not cover a condition that you find yourself in. Not everybody falls into a coma and then stops everything. You may want to elect not to have things in advance of that kind of stage.
It needs to be a lot more explicit, you're saying.
Yes,
Right.
it needs to be in writing. So the more explicit you can be and more detailed you can be, and if it's in writing and if the people who are close to you are aware of this, and you have to have multiple copies of it, it's more likely that it will be followed, but there is no guarantee.
And you should ask the physician for a poll pen, is that right?
Pulse.
Pulse.
Well, you can, I think you can download it off the website of the state, but a physician has to agree to it and sign it. It's a physician order. So you can't do this on your own with your lawyer. You have to have a physician, right? And that's, pulse are usually reserved for people who are in terminal illnesses. Like a healthy person walking around wouldn't get a pulse. It's for when you're closer to death.
Right, and I think it's also worth noting that you actually, you mentioned putting the aid and dying option into an advance directive. If you're living in a state where this is a legal option, you can't have the aid and dying option written into your end-of-life forms like advance directive or a post order. That would be a separate process that you can only start once you are terminally ill with less than 6 months to live as diagnosed by 2 or more doctors. And I also wanted to note that Janice, I think you're standing up because we have to be
We're
out
running
here in
out of
10 minutes.
time.
So there are petitions at the back.
I want-
Please sign them. Also, I guess you should come back in May for part of
Please
the talk.
come back on May 7th, because then you're going to hear more of the story and bring your friends and family with you.
If everyone, please give a hand to Barbara.
Yeah, that's
Everyone, please come back. Barbara's coming in May 7th. We also have a meeting next month, April 2nd, right here in this room. And our big conference, it is free at the Philadelphia Downtown Marriott on May 2nd, which is a Saturday from 12 to 6. We do have a little coffee break halfway through with some coffee and cookies. And Brian Sims will be our keynote speaker. You can mix and mingle with Brian Sims. It'll be very nice.
Pressure him to support aid and dying.
And oh yes, absolutely. I'm pretty sure he already does.
I don't know, because I
We'll find out.
spoke at Academy House recently, and he is the representative for that particular demographic area. And a couple people had contacted him and never heard back from him. So maybe he supports, but it's silent support. But they didn't hear back from him, and they were pretty upset.
So I'll have to find out. Thank you everyone for coming to the meeting tonight. I appreciate it. And you can sign up for our email list in the back of the room.